So we're getting this. Let's jump to the story we have, and we'll see what's going on in the U.S. CBS News reports U.S. truckers planning protest convoy, perhaps starting in L.A. for Super Bowl. DHS warns. That's right. The Department of Homeland Security is warning an American convoy may begin. If it's anything like what we saw in Canada, it will work. It'll be very effective, and it'll probably end up winning. And they're already starting to pull back on the mandates.
That'd been so funny if you just went on to the next story right after.
Like, that's it.
We should do that one
Thank you very much. But I am wondering if this is even a real story. I know there have been conversations about locking down the Super Bowl, but that seems weird to me. Almost like the idea was seeded specifically to ruin the Freedom Convoy. Because right now, regular people don't know, like I'm talking about average people sitting at home, of which there are very few, because I think most people are polarized. They're like, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with that convoy thing. But the manipulation, the propaganda has mostly failed. You go on Reddit and people are like, they're just working class dudes. They're drivers. The propaganda's not working. Well, you want to piss off regular people? Shut down the Super Bowl.
And I'm suspicious of DHS's warnings. It's like I think that it's likely that they could be just sort of trying to say there's a threat out there that's not really there, to make it seem like those extreme people, those truckers, they're going to try to kill your Super Bowl.
Public warnings just don't make a lot of sense to me. If a military comes out and is like, China has we think that China has UFOs, like, come on, dude, what are you telling me for?
Yeah,
you would only tell the people that it's a need to know thing. They would tell LA law enforcement about this. They wouldn't in surrounding areas. They wouldn't be telling the public.
Did you see that clip of the journalist arguing with the what was it Dan Price? What was his name? I don't know the guy's name. I don't remember his name. He's
with the Canadian guy?
No. It's a journalist talking to an American official about Russia's false flag attack. Because the U.S. keeps saying over and over again, Russia's going to stage a false flag. And then he's like, what proof do you have? And they're like, well, we issued a transcript. That's something you said happened. What proof do you have? And then he goes, crisis actors? Are you kidding? This is Alex Jones stuff.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to mention, I think, like the WMDs and like the war in Iraq. I'm like, that guy just snapped. Wow. Something happened to him. He woke up and the narrative broke. Yeah. He was just out of the matrix.
Yeah. And the government guy was going, what are you on Putin's side?
Yeah.
It's so funny how we returned to that too. I remember during the 2012 election when Mitt Romney said something about Russia being a growing threat, and of course he would. He's like an establishment swamp creature. But the response from the left was, oh my goodness, isn't this hysterical? The 80s called, they want their villain back. Yeah. And then in 2016, when we're even more removed from that era, it's Russia. Yeah. What a strange villain. It's like we were joking about this in Burn After Reading when she wants to sell the information to the Russians, and everyone in the CIA is like, the Russians?
Yeah,
why?
Yeah,
like what would they? Yeah.
Well, also because if you're not familiar with that movie, the information was nothing.
It's also the information was nothing. But it's just like the Russians. Like what?
I got a question for you guys. If a bunch of truckers showed up in D.C. and then something happened that a mass casualty event took the lives of these truckers, how do you think the left, the establishment left, and many leftists would react?
Mocking.
They would laugh until there was no one to bring them their food.
Yeah, exactly.
They absolutely would laugh.
Isn't that
they would
scary?
Celebrate it. Yeah,
that's pretty scary. Yeah,
I'd say they deserved it.
Yeah.
Maybe
look at what they do to Ashley Babbitt. It's like
sometimes you get glimpses of humanity from people like Jake Tapper and stuff. So maybe people would be like, this is it. This is the moment that it went too far.
Well, I guess, sometimes the brain slug that infected his mind and took over his body loses control. And he's able to break out. And he's
see light.
Well, just all of a sudden on CNN, he's like, I love all of you. Honey, I love you. And
you're making me think of the Kent State shooting in 1970, May 4th, Kent State. I went to Kent State, and it was a big deal on campus. There was a big crowd of students protesting Vietnam, and then the National Guard came out to try and quiet them down. They were throwing rocks at the National Guard. They opened fire on the crowd and killed 4, injured others. And it was a huge national, just a tragedy. And it basically was the beginning of the end of Vietnam.
Neil Young song, too.
Yeah, and Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah.
Well, Neil was in Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, but the For What It's Worth.
That's such a good song.
Yeah, it's a great song. But
and the people who lost their lives weren't protesters, I'm pretty sure.
Wait. Yeah, Neil was in Buffalo Springfield.
When the shooting at Kent State happened, it was bystanders. It was just people who were on campus walking by. One guy
used to sit on that hill.
But there was also injuries. One guy took a bullet through his wrist, I think, and it paralyzed his hand.
I would sit on the hill and envision all the people and just think about it sometimes. It's crazy, man.
One thing here, this almost in some ways makes it more frightening, but I'll issue a caveat to this idea of left-wing people hypothetically laughing in the situation, and we seem to believe that many of them would. I think there's also an argument to be made that those among them who have some level of empathy for their opposition and don't necessarily hate everyone who stands in their way would still feel pressure to not care about the loss of life, because as soon as they stood up and said these are human beings, they'd be rejected, because that's exactly what happens to them when they say that about the unborn or any other group that the left is okay with the death of.
Zombie horde.
Yeah.
It's mindless. You know, that we were talking about this with your film, your agent, getting fired. These are people who don't care about the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. They just want to hate.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of it. Imagine a mob of people with pitchforks and torches. They don't know. They don't care. They're just going to do whatever the mob does. I've watched it happen in real time. I've been in these major protests where I've seen people lose it and attack random people. I was in San Jose during that infamous Trump rally. I filmed a guy getting smacked in the back of the head with a bag of what we think were rocks.
Oh, wow.
Went viral overnight. And there was also a guy who got beat up because someone decided to beat him up, and the mob just said, that's the guy we're beating up. Turns out he was a part of the mob. There was a kid, some 16-year-old kid was walking down the street. Someone started running after him. The whole mob chased after him. It's absolutely insane, but that's what we're dealing with. I suppose I'll put it this way. If you've got liberals, conservatives, moderates, traditionalists, progressives, that are all in alignment, but they all agree with liberty and being inquisitive. So there's like Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is progressive and lefty, but he believes in the truth. So we like the guy, because we disagree on politics across, all day and night. It's clear that what divides us is not policy. It is simply there is a mob of people that want to be a mob, and there's everyone else who want to live and understand and solve problems. Those are the two groups that are clashing right now.
And the left is kind of the way they've been brought to this point by the Democrat Party and the leaders in that movement is they've been told over and over again, you are the good people. And it's that self-righteousness of like that surety and that self-righteousness. Those people over there are bad. They hate gays. They hate black people. They hate everybody. You're one of the good people. So no matter what they say, we have to remain above them.
I was having a deep conversation last night about this and about after 9/11. All of a sudden, this narrative of good and evil started getting shoved down my throat by George Bush and everybody else around him. And it was like, they're bad, you're good, we're the heroes, God's on our side, good versus evil, good versus evil. Then superhero movies started coming out. Good versus evil. Where people are brainwashed. They think it's good versus evil now. It's terrifying.
Well, I don't
But
think
it is,
good
Ian.
versus evil
No, it's
is
not.
the problem.
Trust me, it's not.
Ian,
Would that be
It's
good?
not. There's destruction and creation, but all the other stuff is perspective.
it's just you're just wrong. I understand.
They
what
want
you're
you to
saying.
think that. They want you
Ian.
polarized.
Maybe they want
I
you to
understand
think
what you're
that.
saying, but someone swatted us, and we got swatted twice. And why would we get swatted a second time? Is it evil to try and kill someone because they have conversations you don't like?
Well, like I just said, man, there's
Is it
creation
evil?
and destruction. And then
It's
it
a
depends on who
question.
you ask.
Destruction.
I'm going to give you a different answer than everyone else, though.
So give me your answer.
What's the question again? Yeah,
Is
from
it-
what you said, killing someone for what?
Trying to get someone killed, a group of people killed because they have conversations you don't like.
Oh, for me, I think of that as terribly evil.
Now, who would disagree with you?
The people trying to kill the
Evil
person having the
people.
conversation.
Evil people.
Well, to them, you're the evil. I mean,
Yo,
it's all perspective and who's telling the story.
But
Who's in
Ian,
control of the narrative.
So I agree with you that people have different perspectives, but some perspectives are wrong. That's the point.
And they would say the same thing. I'm telling
And
you.
they would be wrong. It's okay
Ian,
to say I'm right and you're
Ian,
wong.
but it's
sometimes.
okay to be wrong also.
Yeah, of
Not-
course.
But not
Not-
any longer
not
than you
always.
have to be. As soon as you get the new information that shows that your previously held assumptions were incorrect, you have an obligation to accept those.
I think 99.9% of
That.
humanity has agreed that killing people for no reason is wrong. And a slightly large single-digit percentage probably agrees with preemptive murder for the sake of ideology.
Like if the
Most-
you know,
Well,
if the Iraqi
sociopaths. There
president's
are-
so dangerous, it's okay to get rid of like 80,000 citizens.
Yeah, communists
there's a lot of
tend
evil
to
stuff.
be,
No, that's the American
morally
government.
depraved.
The American government did that. The Democratic Republic of the United States
I'll put it
invaded and
this way.
murdered citizens for that. To get rid of the
But
leader.
you're
Yeah,
arguing
absolutely
that that's
evil.
evil.
It is
Yes.
evil.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but
But
you're
but
agreeing
people
that
don't
there's
think
good
it.
and
People
evil.
are like, hey, the ends justify the means because that guy's so dangerous, and
But
sometimes
no,
that guy
no,
is so
no.
dangerous,
Ian,
like Hitler.
Ian, you are incorrect. On the right and the left, there is populist unity that invading foreign countries and blowing people up is wrong.
What about Nazi? I mean, what about firebombing Dresden to stop Hitler?
You're
Where's
talking-
the evil
You're
in that?
talking about a response. So, like, if some guy in a house starts breaking into other people's homes and killing people. And then we go and he's in one of the houses. So we're like, the only thing we can do to stop this guy is burn the house down. But, you know, might hurt somebody else. Like, this guy's already killed so many people. Yeah. That's called the difficult decision.
This is good because I think you're talking about individual one-on-one interactions. There, now we can start to get a nuance of good and evil. But in the society, it's dangerous to slap that label around.
Well, yeah, I mean, whether you're talking about like firebombing Dresden or firebombing Tokyo or nuclear bombs being dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you can agree that one particular side of the conflict was correct and had to win, while also saying this was objectively morally evil. You should not make civilians a target of warfare. That's a position you can hold.
Like,
but you're not saying, but that doesn't make. But no, you're not saying that. You're saying like actually they shouldn't have done that. I was on their side or am on their side, but I don't think that that's something they should have done. You can side with somebody and still say, but don't do that. You're not pledging like undying agreement with everything they do or have done.
Let me explain something for you, Ian. If I say I've reviewed as much evidence as I can from what happened on January 6th. And there are some people who did some things that were very wrong and should be held accountable. And there are some people that are being harassed and even tortured by the government, and that's wrong. I'm trying to be as objective and honest as possible, to be fair and just to as many people as I can, so that we can all live in harmony. Trying to help people flourish, stopping the bad, stopping the pain, stopping the suffering, and promoting growth is typically a good thing. When you have other organizations that lie on purpose to create destruction and cause pain and suffering, and then lie to convince people that we're the evil ones, that's evil.
I know, man, but now we're talking about like living and lying and knowing you're lying and acting anyway. I know this phone is made by slaves. I know that, and I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And so what am I, living a lie, just walking around like la-di-da?
Do you acknowledge that it's evil?
Yeah, like if they were here, I wouldn't be like la-di-da. I'd be like, free these guys, but they're out of sight, out of mind. So I know it.
But Ian, but what I'm catching, I think you actually believe so firmly and deeply in morality that you're arguing for moral consistency, but you're seeing that as saying that morality doesn't exist. I really think on some level you do believe in good and evil. You just aren't acknowledging it. I really think you do, because you get really upset when a person is hypocritical about their moral values. And why would that be upsetting for you if good and evil weren't real?
I think you're right. I do believe I am good, but I am a product of my parents and what they told me good is.
But did you choose to accept that definition, and have you chosen to act on it? Because that is your own free will. Yeah. That's not just your parents.
It jived with society, so I accepted it.
Is that why you accepted it?
Basically.
Are you going to tell me you've never made a moral decision because you thought it was the right thing to do and not because it jived with society?
I've done that too. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can't just say, well, it's all relative and it's all my parents. At some point, you made choices.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.